This is the third part of the reading of the report, Operation Bluebird, a case study of torture and extrajudicial executions in Manipur. The report is available at amnestyinternational.org, amnesty.org. So today we are going to start at Section 3, the government response. 3.1, State and Central Government Response. The Manipur State Government's response to reports that the Assam Rifles, which are under the control of the central government in New Delhi, had committed grave abuses in Oinam, was divided. In a memorandum from the Council of Ministers signed by Assam Singh, the then Home Minister of India, Bhutta Singh, the state government expressed doubts about the Assam Rifles' claim. The presumption could be that they were tortured while in custody and subsequently, with a view to cover up the crime, shot dead, alleging fake encounters and/or attempt to escape from their custody. A fuller quotation from the memorandum is given in Section 2.3, which describes allegation that the Assam Rifles had tortured villagers and detained villagers and had arbitrarily detained and interrogated people, including a member of the Legislative Assembly. By contrast, the governor of Manipur, General K.V. Krishna Rao, who is an official appointed by the central government, was reported to agree with the account of the Assam Rifle. The governor is a former army chief of staff, and press reports indicated that he had given considerable backing to the Assam Rifles through Major General Kukreti, General Office in command of the Assam Rifles M sector. The latter had once been the governor's service chief in the army. Sunday, Calcutta, 26 September 1987. Both men dismissed the allegations made in the Council of Ministers memorandum, maintaining instead that the local politicians, including the chief minister, had been aiding and had links with the insurgents. On 24 August 1987, the Manipur chief minister met the Prime Minister of India, Rajiv Gandhi, and reportedly informed him of the allegation against the Assam Rifles. Between July and October, prominent citizens, politicians, and various local organizations also complained to the central government. They included Solomon Vaino, a member of the ruling Congress party, Benjamin Bani, a member of the Legislative Assembly, members of the Manipur North Autonomous District Council, the Paume Naga Union, the Baptist Convention, and the Paume Naga Women's Organization, and the Manipur Baptist Convention Executive Council. Other organizations that expressed concern to the Union Home Minister were the Naga Student Association Manipur, the Lepaun Naga Union, and the People's Progressive Council. A memorandum was also sent to the President of India by Manipur People's Party. In 1988, Assam Singh resigned under pressure of dissident member of his Congress I government. The new Chief Minister R.K. Jayachandra Singh said he was open to negotiation with the NSCN. But the new Home Minister of Manipur, Tompok Singh, voiced a hardline policy saying the only solution to end the insurgency is to liquidate the self-styled leaders of the National Socialist Council of Nagaland, NSCN, and for this we have decided to give full support and cooperation to the army. Apparently condoning the actions of the Assam Rifles, he described this as understandable. When he visited Oinam, he reportedly urged the villagers to withdraw the cases brought against the Assam Rifles. This is how the village headman T.H. Rauping described the minister's reaction. Okay, and here are some pictures. Okay, I'll look it up in the internet to see if we can get some clearer picture. At the village, the minister was told about atrocities committed and the continuing harassment and threat from the military in detail through written and verbal submission. That the minister speaking to us said it was natural for the army to react in anger when they suffered death and killed the villagers, and that the minister told the villagers to forget the past and cooperate with the army as that is the only way to peace. That the minister told the gathering that human rights organization members who filed cases against the army in High Court were Tangkhul students in Delhi and Guwahati who do not know anything and have made baseless charges, and that we cannot win the cases and should tell the human rights organization to withdraw them. On 9 September 1987, the Union Home Minister Butta Singh visited Manipur. According to a report in the Sentinel, 5 October 1987, he spoke to the Assam Rifles but did not meet with the villagers who complained of abuses. The most strange part of the investigation is that Mr. Singh persistently refused to meet the opposition political party who had leveled serious charges and the suffering villagers. Mr. Singh also never went to the affected villages. Instead, he left Imphal after having dinner with the Assam Rifles personnel. During subsequent judicial proceedings brought against the Assam Rifles by the private group, the Naga People's Movement for Human Rights, representative of the government denied all charges of abuses against the Assam Rifles. The government maintained that the action of the force were within the limits permitted by Armed Forces Special Power Act, which grants the security forces immunity from prosecution. The Indian government's response to the evidence of human rights abuse in Oinam fell far short of the minimum requirement to impartially investigate such grave abuses as torture and extrajudicial executions, the need of which the UN had repeatedly emphasized for the relevant international standards. See Recommendation 1 in Section 6 of this report. Section 3.2, the reaction of the security forces. 3.2.1, denial of access to outside observers, detention and torture of journalists, and attempts to manipulate the press. The Assam Rifle closed off the area around Oinam during the combing operation, making it difficult for local politicians and independent observers such as human rights groups and the press to observe first-hand information about what had happened. Several local politicians and representatives of student groups who tried to visit the area were detained. Despite obtaining prior official permission to travel there, some were reportedly tortured and forced into signing documents denying that they had been detained or tortured. Solomon Vino, a 35-year-old originally from Phuba Thapham village, had worked for the Congress Party since 1986. He is a village trainer at the Department of Political Training, All India Congress Committee, Senapati District. On 23rd July 1987, he and Theo Daniel, president of the National Students Union of India, Senapati District, obtained permission from the Senapati Deputy Commissioner to visit Oinam and neighboring villages the following day. Solomon, Vino, Theo, Daniel, and 4 journalists accompanying them were stopped by the Assam Rifles. Before reaching Oinam, the journalists were ordered to return home, but Solomon, Vino, and Theo Daniel were taken to the Deputy Inspector General (DIG) of the 4th Assam Rifle, Major General Kukreti, at the Oinam Army Post on 8 April 1988. He testified before the Chief Magistrate, Imphal, that the DIG Assam Rifles Manipur Range D and 2 subordinate officers surrounded me and started beating me, kicking me till I fell down on the ground. When I fell down on the ground, they made me stand up again and again, started beating and kicking me. When I was unable to stand, they took me inside their camp and made me sign a paper thanking them for a cup of tea and their kind hospitality. I was compelled to sign on this and also on a blank paper at gunpoint. Both men were then detained for 5 days, tied to a pillar in a sitting position before being handed over to the Kangpokpi police station on 1st August 1987. They were kept at the police station until 9 August before being transferred to the Central Jail, Imphal. They were released on bail on 17 August. Before their release by the army, however, they were made to sign the certificate and letters to officials denying that they had been arrested, detained, or harassed. In his statement before the Chief Judicial Magistrate, Imphal, on 8 April 1988, Solomon Vienno stated, I was made to sign various documents, letters to Prime Minister, another letter addressed to the Chief Justice of Guwahati High Court, and a letter addressed to the DIG Assam Rifles, Manipur Range, and a certificate stating that I was not arrested, detained, or harassed. Some Assam Rifles personnel made me write a letter to the DIG Assam Rifles Manipur Range stating that the Manipur Chief Minister and 3 MLAs have linked with the National Socialist Council of Nagaland, and the 4 journalists who have accompanied me were anti-government. 4 members of Naga student organization, Chakraviyi Venyo, Zinaiko Lausa, Kyo Leto Kyohao, and El Lohe were prevented from proceeding to Oinam and said that when they returned to Kohima, joined by Artax Simre, the president of the All Naga Students Association Manipur, they were arrested, beaten up, and detained. Their affidavits contain allegations of abuses by the Assam Rifles consistent in pattern with allegation of abuses suffered by other detainees. They were detained until 12 August. During their detention, they were blindfolded, interrogated, beaten, and one had chili liquid poured down the nostril. In his own statement, Z. Naiko Lausa, the 25-year-old vice president of the NSF, reported that on the night of 7 August, he was subjected to torture and interrogation by the personnel, and I was forced to stand on my toes throughout the night. I was beaten and tortured again on the 8 August 87 by the Assam Rifles personnel, resorting to boxed on my head, pouring chili powdered liquid inside my nostrils, poked me severely on my stomach and ribs with lathi, causing me to vomit several times. I heard the Assam Rifles personnel beating and torturing Mr. L. Lohe, Mr. Z. Naikwa, Mr. Artex Simre, Mr. Pradip Lama, and Mr. Kevi Letao throughout the night. On 11 August, J.N. Lusau, Chaukri Veyi Venyo, and L. Lohe, president of the Mao Naga Students Union, were brought before the DIG of the Assam Rifles. He made light of the torture. Lausa reports in his own statement that when he told the DIG what had happened to them, he replied saying, I am very sorry that my Jawans had roughed you up. Before their release, they were made to sign declarations stating that they had not been arrested, detained, or tortured by the Assam Rifles. On return to Kohima, the members of the NSF team required hospital treatment. Z. Naiko Lausa said he needed hospital treatment from 12 to 24 August for injuries received in the detention. The Lipaune Naga Union wrote on 10 September 1987 to the Minister of Home Delhi to complain that both local journalists and those writing for the national press were prevented from visiting the areas. The Sentinel reported on 5th October 1987 that editors of the local paper had been threatened by the Assam Rifles that if they published unfavorable reports against the army, they would lose their advertising rights. The area remained sealed off to journalists who sought to come on their own initiative. In an article of 9 December 1987 in the Statesman, Arup Chanda described how he visited Oinam and the surrounding villages. Disguised as a doctor, since the ordinary civilians are still not allowed to enter the area except with clearance from the Assam Rifles. All vehicles, including those belonging to police, are usually stopped at Koidai village on the road leading towards Oinam by Assam Rifles men. They seek permission of the commanding officer over the wireless whether the vehicle should be allowed to proceed. He also reported that some of the villagers he spoke to were too afraid to give their names for fear of being harassed or killed by the Assam Rifles for speaking to the press. This fear has been borne out earlier in October when a television team from Delhi visited Oinam K. Hossi, a 33-year-old farmer who had helped accommodate and feed the television team and who had answered their inquiries about the alleged abuses by the Assam Rifles. Said that he was later arrested by the army and beaten on account of this. Nevertheless, some accounts of what had happened during Operation Bluebird appeared in the press. Later in the year, the Assam Rifles made attempts to manipulate press coverage in favor of the security forces. Major General Kukreti, General Officer in command of Manipur sector of the Assam Rifles, organized a press conference at Oinam at the end of December for journalists working for the national press. One of them was a reporter from the Time of India who, in a report of 27 January 1988, described how he had expected a very hostile reception by the predominantly Pangmai Naga residents of Oinam and the villages around in view of the reported stories of atrocities, molestation of women, and destruction of houses in the area by the security forces. Instead, he said his delegation, including 3 journalists and the Inspector General of the Assam Rifles, were greeted by 1,000 villagers and by smiling Naga girls, presenting them with flower garlands and Naga shawls. This is evidence, however, that villagers attending the press conference described above were forced to do so. Mr. N.G. Longkha, a villager from Oinam, stated in an affidavit that on 29 December, the villagers were ordered by the Assam Rifles to attend the cultural function for the benefit of the news media, and that a statement in their name denying they were abused by the Assam Rifles were read out against their wishes. The CO had said that anyone refusing to obey the order would face dire consequences, including physical torture. That, out of fear, I decided to leave other work and attend to the set post. and took my children and my wife to the said post at about 8 a.m. on December 30th, 1987. That several hundred persons from our village attended at the Oinam 21 Assam Rifle post by morning, and I did not know of anyone from our village who disobeyed the CO's order. A student was made to conduct the gathering, and that draft speech given by the Assam Rifles were read out by him in the name of the villagers gathered there. At the end of the dance and folk song program, which was forcibly given by all the villagers, the Assam Rifles officer made speeches. The officials spoke with emphasis that both sides, that is the Assam Rifles and the villagers, have suffered loss of life and other hardship in the past, and that it was time to forget all that had happened and should not make any statement about atrocities, but should compromise that no one took these speeches seriously, as we were even at the very moment being closely watched and forced to act against our wishes with threat to our lives. 3.2.2 Reprisals for complaints. The Assam Rifle also sought to cover up abuses by arresting and in some cases torturing people for signing letters or memoranda to the central government alleging abuses by the Assam Rifles, by seeking to prevent villagers from making complaints or by forcing them to retract or alter them. 4 members of the Manipur North Autonomous District Council, along with 16 other people, had signed a memorandum to the Prime Minister of India on 22nd July, giving details of arrests, detentions, torture, and killings carried out by the Assam Rifles in and around Oinam. One of the signatories was T.H. Liba, a 46-year-old member of the MNADC. In his own statement to the court, he described how he was arrested at his house in Imphal at midnight on 26 July 1987 by Major Ranjit Singh of the 4th Assam Rifles. According to Liba, 2 other members of the MNADC were also arrested, namely L.R. Maikayand and T.H. Salono. T.H. Liba told the court how they were taken to the 4th Assam Rifle camp at Imphal and were told by the major that we were under arrest for being the signatories on the memorandum written to the Prime Minister. Having said the word, we were blindfolded, tied hands, and taken to the lock-up when we spent the rest hours of the night. The next day, they were taken to Lai Rauching Army Headquarters, where they met El Kasa. So another member, the next day they were taken to Lai Rauching Army Headquarters, where they met El Casaso, another member of the MNADC, from where they were taken to Oinam. T.H. Liba described how on reaching the camp, we were asked to sign one after another and immediately started calling one inside a room for beating and interrogation. I was called. The DIG started locating me with the can stick. The DIG and CO kept beating me on rotation. They asked me if I were a signatory on the memorandum written to the Prime Minister, if I saw villagers being tortured, houses burned, women raped, etc. I narrated the thing that I had personally witnessed without stopping for a moment. They charged that I was the leader of the writing and my plea for freedom of speech and my responsibility as representative of 1,000 citizens was not respected. That realizing their unstopped beating, I kept mum and having unable to bear the pain, I cried out loud that I saw other council members were beaten in the same manner. The next morning, 20th July, they were ordered to write on blank papers the words being dictated by CO to the effect that we had written the memorandum to the Prime Minister under the instigation of some other politicians. In the CO's presence, we were forced to sign at least 30 times, if not more, without letting us know the contents of the paper. The men were then brought before a military doctor for a medical examination. The army doctor specifically advised that the men not to complain about torture, otherwise he said they might not be released. T.H. Liba said that on 18 July 1987 in the morning, we were taken to doctor military for checkup. Doctor did suggest we better not complain against the beating, so that we were immediately released. They were detained until 14 August when they were released on bail. Similarly, Pau Leo and Mr. Nupani, two villagers from Oinam, wrote to the Chief Minister of Manipur on 27 November 1987 that the Assam Rifles were looking for those people who had spoken to the minister on his visit to Oinam about the conduct of the security forces during the combing operation. Another villager, Anne Sosai, told the court that in Khongdai Kuman, the villagers were threatened with dire consequences if the villagers revealed the fact and reality of how the 21 Assam Rifles personnel are behaving with the villagers. To the Visiting Hill Areas Committee Chairman, Mr. V. Ming Thing, our local MLA, Mr. Benjamin Bani, staff members, and other two local social activists, on hearing of the coming of the Hill Area Committee Chairman, the personnel of AR had removed 12 male members who had been severely beaten to the Lairauching headquarters. The other two, whose arm had already fractured, namely number 1, T. Kanmai, and number 2, S. Jacob, were also removed to their camp because both of them could not walk on their own. And thus those unfortunate villagers were completely denied of meeting and telling their stories to visiting officials. Force were commonly reported to oblige villagers to sign false affidavit denying atrocities were committed by the Assam Rifles. For example, Theo Daniel, the student leader who had accompanied Solomon Vino to Oinam and who had been arrested on 24 July and beaten at Oinam Army camp, said in a sworn statement that on 1st August 1987, I was forced to write each application to the Prime Minister of India and the Chief Justice of Guwahati High Court, which the content of both applications were dictated by the Assam Rifles officer, stating that the villagers were never harassed, beaten, tortured, shot dead, women folks were not sexually assaulted, houses, school buildings were neither demolished nor burnt, no property was destroyed or taken by the security forces. Other villagers, including the chairman and secretary of the village authorities in Chingmai Khunau, said in sworn statement that they were forced to make similar statement. Some of the villagers were reportedly pressed to sign false affidavits under threats to their life. For example, Mr. Kanmi from Khongdai Kuman himself, a torture victim mentioned earlier, stated in his affidavit that the army had forcibly taken affidavit from me and my friend Jacob in the presence of village authority members by threatening us that if we really value our life, then we should give affidavit to them. The affidavit sure as that I was not arrested by Assam Rifle, no torture was done to my person. Villagers were not harassed and tortured by the army. Women and children were not confined in concentration camp during the operation days. During the operation days, the army never spat on us, and in any case, I happened to meet my end due to the severe beating. The Assam Rifles should not make liable for this. False affidavits were also taken from groups of villagers. For example, Mr. Rauping, the headman of Oinam, said that on 2nd September 1987, the villagers were made to write a memorandum to the Hill Commissioners denying that people had been tortured and arrested and that the women and children had been harassed. 2 months later, on 9 November, he and 11 other village elders and youth leaders from Oinam, Ngamzu, and Thingba Khulen were also forced to sign affidavits to that effect. Amnesty International had a copy of the affidavit signed by Rauping, in which he stated, consequent to the raid on Oinam Post on 9 July 87 by the Nationalist Socialist Council of Nagaland, the security forces, including Assam Rifles, have been carrying out combing and search operation in area around Oinam village in Senapati district. Few people of our village who have affiliation with anti-social and anti-national organizations have been implicating Assam Rifles on one pretext or the other, and they have been alleged to have committed excess. We, the villagers of Oinam village, are deeply hurt about the misrepresented facts and false implication of Assam Rifles, and would like to bring on record that Assam Rifles have not killed our people, not tortured, beaten, assaulted on one in our village, not tortured, beaten, assaulted anyone in our village, not forced us to shift our house or village, and the houses have not been dismantled or burned, not raped any female, and on the contrary, full respect had been shown to women folks. We live as brother and sister in the village. Similarly, 12 villagers from Kongdai Kumen signed a false affidavit on 26 October 1987 in which they denied that Assam Rifles had tortured villagers, even though one of the people who signed it, D. Chitpao, still bears the evidence of torture, have lost his 4 teeth as a result of beating by the Assam Rifle. See section 2.3. Villagers were threatened with violence if they did not sign such affidavits, whose contents they were sometimes not allowed to read. For example, N. Sekho, a farmer and a village secretary from Kongdai Kuman, reported in his court testimony that he was arrested on 24 September 1987, detained by the Assam Rifles for about 2 weeks, and then forced under threat of torture into signing a document. During this period, Captain X told me to give an affidavit by putting my signature on a document prepared already. When I inquired what was written in that document, I was told by Captain X that in this affidavit, it was written only that when curfew was promulgated in our village, we were not harassed by the Assam Rifle and we lived friendly with the Assam Rifles. When I expressed my unwillingness and stated that I was not a leader of our village and it would be better to get such an affidavit from our village leader who were alive by then. On this, I was threatened by the Captain X, stating that if I refused to give the affidavit, I would be taken again to Lairauching, and there you would see you will be alive or not. Out of fear, I volunteered to sign on the affidavit prepared by him or them. The local magistrate made him sign the affidavit, even though Sekho made it clear that he did not want to do so. Thereafter, I was brought in the court of a magistrate lying within this court compound. That magistrate was a Tangkhul by tribe, and when I expressed my unwillingness to the magistrate and requested him to make an arrangement so that I may not give the affidavit, the said magistrate told me in Tangkhul dialect that he knew that I was bought by the Assam Rifles and told me if I refused to give affidavit, I may face consequence. He also advised me that to give affidavit would be better for me. Then I put my signature on the affidavit before the magistrate. In his cross-examination by the Assam Rifles, N. Sekho said that he was unable to understand what he was forced into signing and that the magistrate refused to translate the contents for him. To that magistrate, I requested to read out the contents of the affidavits, and here the learned magistrate told me that if I did not know the English, it was not needed for him to read out. When I stated further in Tangkhul dialect that I did not know English well and requested to translate it and the learned magistrate said it was not necessary for him to translate it, thus he refused to make any translation of the affidavit on which I signed. I was signed before him earlier. Amnesty International has a copy of one of the affidavits which N. Psycho said he was forced to sign. The village claimed that the NSCN army was intimidating villagers, implicates two local politicians as having links with the NSCN, and denies the Assam Rifles harass villagers. 3.2.3 Attempts to discredit politicians who raise human rights abuses. The Assam Rifles also tried to discredit local politicians who had spoken out against the abuse through making false statements implicating them in criminal activities or linking them to underground Naga organization. Various members of the Legislative Assembly, including Benjamin Bani, a Naga politician from Oinam, and Mr. Lui Khang, the Minister of State for Education, were singled out for such treatment. For example, L.K. Kasaso, a member of the Manipur North Autonomous District Council who had been detained at Oinam along with Mr. Liba after signing a memorandum to the Prime Minister, said in the court, on 28 July 87, we were ordered to write on blank paper the words being dictated to me by the CO. On reading the few lines, I found Mr. Benjamin and Lui Khang charged with many crimes against the state and the citizens by harboring and donating money to the underground people. Likewise, L. Jonathan, a construction worker who had also been one of the 20 people to sign that memorandum to the Prime Minister, was arrested on 30 August and detained at Oinam camp, where he was interrogated and said he was forced to write whatever I know. Finally, Major told me to write whatever he says, otherwise my life would be in danger. I was forced to write that Mr. Lui Khang, Education Minister Manipur, is constructing a building at Maram Bazaar costing rupees 13,000,000 only by collecting money from the public. His bus is used for transporting the underground people from Imphal to Mao and Mao to Dimapur, Nagaland. That about Mr. K.S. Benjamin Bani, MLA Manipur. I was dictated that Benjamin Bani is collecting money from the public towards the construction of roads, that the donated money had been given to the underground people instead of the money being utilized for road construction. Solomon Baino, a member of the Congress party who tried to visit Oinam in July and was detained by the Assam Rifles, C3.2.1, reported that during his detention, he was forced to write a letter to the DIG Assam Rifle Manipur Range saying that the Chief Minister of Manipur plus 3 members of the Legislative Assembly had links with the NSCN, and that the 4 journalists who had accompanied him and Daniel to Oinam were anti-government. Vienno subsequently submitted an affidavit to Guwahati High Court about it. L. Peter, 35-year-old secretary of Ngari High School, who was arrested and detained on 28 July 1987, stated that on 15 August 87, I was ordered to write biodata, and having written it was taken to the major, but major flatly rejected along with unbearable insulting words. The major prepared his own statement implicating Mr. Maichi Lung, MP, Mr. Lui Khang, Education Minister, Manipur, Mr. Ming Thing, Chairman, Hill Area Committee, Manipur, Mr. Benjamin Bani, MLA, Mr. Arthur, MLA, Mr. Pao, Mr. Lipa, in all sorts of crime against the state in the nature of supporting the underground people by contributing money, feeding food, calling meetings, killing innocent people in collaboration with underground people, taking public donations for their own constructional purposes, etc. I was forced to sign over it before an executive magistrate, Senapati district, Manipur. Villagers were also forced to make incriminating statement. On 7 September 1987, the Assam Rifles ordered the villagers of Thingba Khulen, Thingba Khunau, Koide, Purul, Oinam to each send 100 men and 100 women to the Oinam army post. When the villagers arrived, they were transported to Imphal. In a sworn statement, R. Wakau, a resident of Oinam and youth leader, said that I was also taken down to Imphal in their vehicle on the 7th September 87, along with more than 1,000 mostly youth members and village elders from Oinam and its neighboring village for proposed rally procession of the 8th September 87. We were kept at Manipur Assam Rifles camp and made to do many rehearsals, including shouting of slogans such as Benjamin Bani Murdabad, dead to Luikhang Murdabad, MPP Murdabad, Assam Rifles Jindabad, long live, Assam Rifles Bhai Bhai, brothers, etc., etc. According to the press, the forced procession was meant to coincide with the visit of Prime Minister and other ministers to Imphal on the 8th October. However, the procession never took place as the Deputy Commissioner in Imphal forbade it. Legal proceedings. Okay, so I am going to end my reading and then we'll continue the next reading from section 4, legal proceedings. Thank you very much for listening.